You're listening to the Magnetic Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Calandra Martin, intuitive brand designer for spiritual entrepreneurs. The Magnetic Boss Podcast is where visionaries come together to openly share wisdom and authentic conversations. I know that you are ready to leave your legacy in the world and become sought out in your industry. I also know that you are sick and tired of getting overlooked. You're ready to have a magnetic business. I'm here to help you create your magnetic brand. It's my mission to help you show up confidently with a professional, irresistible online presence. If you're in this for the long game and all in on the big vision you have for your business, let's dive in. In Victoria, BC, Kehla is a bold 6'2" sacral generator and a leading human design and Gene Keys business coach for entrepreneurs. She empowers business owners to elevate and expand by integrating human design and Gene Keys into their strategies, ensuring every move is aligned with their unique energetics. Known for her no BS approach, Kehla cuts through the noise of the online world, sparking real, courageous transformations. You can catch her 2.5% top-ranked podcast, Living in Fierce Alignment, where she's released over 410 episodes and hosted more than 120 powerful interviews. Kehla, I am so excited to have you on the podcast. This conversation is going to be so valuable for our listeners, and I just want to dive right in with you. Before we get started, will you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you really support your clients, because you have so many modalities and ways that you work with people. Today, we're going to be talking about your brand, your messaging, and using Gene Keys in that. But where did this all get started?
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I love having this conversation. So I started my business 6 years ago. And when I started my business, actually, I want to share a bit of the transition that happened, because I think this is important for where this conversation is going. I started as a personal trainer back in 2016. I was personal trainer for 3 years. I was a teacher before that. And then I started online coaching and I was a mindset coach. And through that experience, getting into personal development, I started getting into spirituality, and then I discovered human design and Gene Keys in 2021, so 4 years ago. And as I dove deeper into human design and Gene Keys, and I was on the route of like figuring out how to run a business, I started to combine the systems with business strategy, like really looking at your messaging, looking at marketing, launching, selling, how you create your offers, how you scale your business. And I started to realize that this was an incredible tool because it was bringing nuance to the clients that I was working with, rather than just telling people, oh, just make it your own, be an authority, be convicted, whatever. I see that information is very surface level, even when it comes from people who have like wild success. And so I'm so excited to be here today to share this conversation and dive into the Gene Keys. Obviously, I talk about human design, but today we're going to stick with Gene Keys, or this episode will be 4 hours. And it's just a tool that really helps people unlock authenticity and their voice, and speaks to their experience and their triggers and their gifts and their zones of genius in their work. And so it's gonna be great. We're gonna get into the weeds in a second, but that's my backstory to how I got here.
That's so cool. I think it's so important to kind of know where people have come from and how they have turned the vision that they have into a thriving business, because a lot of people, when they're in the trenches of being a visionary, being a spiritual entrepreneur, and having these gifts, it can be really confusing or daunting and overwhelming because we're so inundated with information from people that are experts, quote unquote experts, that know the way or know the path. And the work that you do in the world, I think, is so powerful because it really allows you to lean into yourself and understanding yourself and being able to map out your journey based on what actually is going to help you with crafting your brand and your messaging and the way that you position yourself. So, for anybody listening that doesn't know what Gene Keys are, can you just give us like a quick, if I was a kindergartner, example of what this is?
Yes. Okay. So the Gene Keys, and actually, I feel like people are more familiar with human design, and I'm sure that you've talked
And
about
on the
human
podcast.
design.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna just come at it from that angle because it'll make it easier for everyone. So when you need your birth information, just like you do when you look up your human design chart, and you can go to genekeys.com to look up your gene keys chart, or you can go on Genetic Matrix. That's the main platform that I use. But you need your birth time, date, location, and let's say, for example, when you look up your human design chart, you get a body graph, right? And you see your type, your authority, your strategy, all of that. But when you look at your body graph, you'll see all the shapes, which are all the centers, and you're going to see all the numbers inside of the centers. And those are known as gates in human design. So those gates come from a shared system with the gene keys, which is known as the I Ching. So the I Ching is the 64 streams of consciousness. So there's 64 gates in the human design chart. So the I Ching system, the 64 streams of consciousness are also known as the 64 gene keys. So when you look up your gene keys chart and you first see it, you're going to be like, WTF. It's another system of confusion because it's like a bunch of circles and there's lines and there's numbers and words. And you're going to be like, I don't even understand how to interpret this, but we'll help you today. So when you look up your gene keys, you're going to see circles that are all connected with lines. There's going to be a green section that's known as the activation sequence. There's going to be a red area known as the Venus sequence. And then there's going to be the blue section or area known as the Pearl sequence. So the gene keys is the I Ching system with astrology. And they create these three sequences with like 11 planets pulled from your astrology / your human design. So when you're looking at these sequences, each sequence has its own theme. So the activation sequence is like what activates you, like your 4 prime gifts, your zones of genius. The Venus sequence shows you your way to cultivate unconditional love in relationships. I love to use this to help people connect with their ideal clients and really understand their emotional and mental patterns and triggers that are basically running their life right now, because then you can really take responsibility for that and create these breakthroughs in business. And then your Pearl sequence is all about prosperity. It's all about how to be of service, which obviously as entrepreneurs, this is what we focus on. And so it's really looking at, like, I love using the Pearl sequence when we're creating programs or we're looking at how we're going to support clients in a space, or you're in the process of launching and you're getting your work out into the world to be of service. So the gene keys are a contemplative tool. So let's say with human design, it's like you have your strategy and your authority, and this is how you take action. The gene keys are more at realizing, okay, I have this gene key, which has each gene key has a shadow, gift, and city. So there's a frequency spectrum. And it's seeing like, okay, this gene key with this planet in this sphere is telling a story. And when you can dive into that and start to see, oh, I see where this shadow shows up in my life or in my business, or where this gift shows up in my life and business. And you start to dive into that story and realize that these energetic imprintings have been on you since birth. It's not your coaching certifications. It's not the amount of years you've worked in an industry. It's literally your energetic gifts from birth. When you can bring this into how you create your content, how you coach your clients, how you lead yourself, how you, with your messaging, which we're going to talk about today, your brand voice, that is what brings you a level of authenticity, which goes so far beyond what we hear online, which is just like, get convicted, get louder, post more, sell harder, raise your prices. Like, it's just, this is a nuance that is lacking. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing it. So I know that was really long winded, but I really
Oh,
hope that hit the nail on the head.
yes. Well, and it's helpful for me too, because even though I know what gene keys are and I have an understanding, like you said, there's so many nuances and layers and ways that you can really dig into this work. And that's why I love human design. And I've really been turned onto the gene keys, is because there's so much to understand about ourselves to allow us to then support people in the way that we are meant to, right? Like, we are born into this work. What we're doing now is like this deconditioning and this understanding of how to do it in our own way, instead of following what everybody else has maybe been telling us or what society tells us we should be doing and the path that we should be on. It's really like a permission slip to step into
Yes,
the brand with so much more power.
totally. And I love that it's a permission slip, and it's it's like it's a paradox because it's validation, but it's not me validating you from my perception. It's you realizing, oh my God, this is present in my life. This is how I experience it. So then it empowers yourself, like the client, to see their own brilliance. And there's nothing better than internal validation, because I think that the industry is dripping in the need for external validation, and it's perpetuating a disempowering context in business. And I'm so tired of it because that's what slows people down.
Yeah, I think another thing too that I've seen over the last handful of years in the coaching industry is this level of codependency that people are getting with their mentors, right? You jump into a mastermind, you work with a one-on-one coach, or you take a course, and then all of a sudden you think like this person walks on water and I have to do everything that they do, or everything that they say I have to copy. And that stunts so many people in their growth and being able to reach the levels. And they're finding these plateaus because they're following somebody else's structure. This work is so important, I think, for branding in particular, because it gives you the opportunity to not rely on somebody else to have the answers for you. Yes, like you as a guide, amazing to have a mentor that can help you like understand what the hell all those numbers mean and what the gates are and all of that. But it gives you this tool to be able to lean on that is grounded in who you are, not what somebody else says you need to be.
100%. Totally agree.
So, when we're talking about branding and we're talking about messaging, what do you think is the most important thing for people to look at? So, let's say they go to genekeys.com, they get their chart, they look at it, and they're like, okay, there's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of things. What is the most important thing that they can do to really shift their perspective, or maybe even just like, I know you have a lot of journaling activities and things that people can reflect on to give them more clarity in this area?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, so let's say you're listening to the episode or you're going to go after and you're going to pull up your chart. And when you look at your chart, like I said, you're going to see a lot of circles, we call them spheres, but I want you to look at the very top of your gene keys, which is your brand. This is known as your conscious sun in human design and also in the gene keys, your conscious sun energy and your brand. So we're looking at it from the lens of the pearl sequence. You'll also see it as your life's work in the activation sequence. So that sphere is like shared between the two different sequences. So the reason why I want to talk about your brand from the pearl sequence, because I said earlier how this is how you're designed to be of service, is your brand when you contemplate this gene key. And what I mean by contemplation, and this is like the approach, Richard Rudd is the founder of the gene keys, and he has this approach with the gene keys called the art of contemplation, where you might look at it and be like, well, what does this word mean in this word? Like, for example, I have the 36th gene key in that top sphere. And the shadow is turbulence. And then we have humanity and compassion. So if you're looking at that, you're like, well, what does that mean for my brand? Like, I don't understand. Contemplation is going in between that space of meditation and concentration. So it's like when you contemplate your gene keys, you want to get into this meditative state and just let it show up for you. And so let's say if I take the 36 gene key in my brand and I think, okay, the shadow of turbulence, humanity, and compassion as the highest expression, like how does this show up for me in my business?
The doors are officially open to the Creatrix Mastermind, and I am so excited to share this space with you. This mastermind experience is a space where you come to ignite your magic. It is a space where you come into community with women who are rising alongside you. And together we're creating lasting impact and meaningful work through your divinely led mission. When you step into this container with us, you're going to rise as the wildly wealthy woman you're meant to be. And you're going to do it with so much clarity and confidence in building something that has longevity, launching something that allows you to be fully in your unique power. The doors are opening in March 2025. This is a 12-month mastermind experience, and we are making this mastermind so accessible. If you're ready to ignite your magic, you can step into this container for as little as $385 per month or $4,200 for the entire year. If you join us with Early Bird, you're only going to pay $3,700 for the entire year, and you will be joining 10 other women. We're going to keep this space super limited because you will be getting direct, intimate support from not only me as your brand and marketing expert, but also Jennifer Greinier, You've heard her here on the podcast. She is the human design queen. She is the queen of boundaries, and she's going to help you with really finding that true alignment, stepping into your unique essence, and integrating that into your business so that you can really create the impact that you're here to create. We cannot wait to welcome you into the Creatrix Mastermind. If this is speaking to you, if you are an established entrepreneur and you know that valuing yourself, your mindset, and your business knowledge is going to bring you to the next level, if you're ready to immerse yourself in a supportive group of women who are calibrating to their absolute highest potential, and you're committed to taking bold action and creating quantum leaps in your business, now is your time. This is your invitation. The link is in the show notes. If you go to creatrixmastermind.com/enroll, you can join us today. We cannot wait to welcome you inside.
And I start to look at the themes. I start to notice, well, what has my entrepreneurial journey been? Like I said, I've been in business for 6 years. It took me 5 years to have the coveted 6-figure year. It took me time. Like I had a lot of ups and downs. I went through a season where I was considering debt consolidation. I've lost friendships. I've had a lot of turbulence. And so that gift of humanity, it's like, well, how can I? So I look at my brand voice. I look at how I show up. And it's like, well, how can I share my story from the lens of somebody who's navigated turbulence as an entrepreneur, who's been openly transparent about the journey, talked about debt, talked about wins, talked about losses, all of it, and really cultivate that aspect of you are a human having a spiritual experience in your business. Like everything you do is a lesson. Like you signed up for this, whether you realized it or not.
Yeah.
And then having that compassion for yourself, like how can I show my ideal clients, my audience, to have compassion for themselves as they navigate the journey of being an entrepreneur? So just that one sphere is like the biggest backbone in my business because it's literally the brand sphere. It's literally me. I'm a 6'2" sacral generator in human design. So I have a 6 line in that sphere. I'm here to be a teacher. I'm here to be a visionary. I'm here to guide people with that. That's exactly what I do in my brand. Like it's so consistent. And that's why people feel me. That's why they hear me. That's why they trust me. And that's why I love to help people dive into the gene keys, because I'm not just telling you, oh, you need to be a leader. You need to share with conviction and courage and be brave. It's like, okay, let's contemplate how these show up for you. How are you showing up? Are you aligned with that? How can you share that in your messaging? So that's just one example. Like I could take all the gene keys and weave that into someone's brand, but literally that sphere in the Pearl sequence is called the brand sphere for that reason.
I love that. I just pulled mine up just so that we have some more like examples if you're open to doing
Oh,
that.
yes.
My Pearl sequence is 43.2 Epiphany, Insight, Deafness, Line 2 Recognition.
Yeah. So that's in your brand sphere, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like, let's say if I were to, so we have deafness, epiphany, and then what's the city? Or is epiphany the city? There'll be 3 expressions there.
If I'm looking at my chart itself.
Yeah.
So it shows me Pearl 43.2, and then on the right it says Epiphany. And
okay.
then,
Yeah. So, okay. So the gift, so let's say the transition from deafness to epiphany is insight. So let's say are you looking at the pearl right in the middle of your pearl sequence? Okay. So look at the sphere above that at the very top. What number is that one? Because that's your brand.
28.1, Life's Work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So your life's work is also known as your brand. So this is so funny. So the shadow is purposelessness. We have totality and immortality. And some people are probably like, what the fuck does that even mean? So then if we get into it, yeah. So we get into this. Let's say we're going to have a conversation about your brand right now. So I know a bit of the work that you do, and obviously you bring a lot of spirituality to how you run a business. Like you and I have this in common, but the purposelessness is like, you need to have a deep purpose as to why you are creating and growing and scaling your business. And so the people that you work with, they may feel disconnected from what it is they're meant to do. Like there's like this thread that's pulling them. Like, I know that I'm meant to do more. I'm meant to help people. I'm meant to do this, but they haven't fully created that purpose to be the backbone of their business to move forward. So when we look at totality and immortality as a gift and a city, totality is like embracing the entire journey. Like really looking at, okay, there's going to be times where you're going to feel like, what the hell is the purpose of this? Or you're really going to be connected to the purpose, but realizing that both ends of that spectrum are part of the process. And so that immortality is that no matter what season you're going through, like you have your purpose. Like it's inside of you. Even if it goes dark, the light's always going to come. Like there's going to be this ebb and flow. And how are you going to lead yourself through that? So which line do you have in the brand sphere?
Mm.
Like what's your profile in human design?
I am a 1-3 many gen.
Okay, so you would have a one line there. So the one line with the 28 is like the creator, right? The investigator. So you're really here to help people create a really solid foundation and help them investigate what it is that they need to connect with their purpose and really take that to the next level in their business. So that's like that whole story. First of all, I'm curious if that resonates with you.
Well, I think it's so interesting because, this is like surface level information that I haven't taken the time to dive into. So, like, yes, it resonates. And I see where I can bridge that into my human design knowledge of knowing that I have the right angle cross of the unexpected, right? So, like, I'm going through this, like, having unwavering faith of the journey and the ups and the downs and the ebbs and the flows, and seeing how that's played out in my business and being able to share that journey with my audience is really what has led to success and alignment, because that's what people resonate with when I'm sharing my message, right? That is how
Yes.
I've crafted my brand message is like, yes, the hero's journey of becoming a mom and growing a business simultaneously, and how that journey has evolved over the years. So it totally makes sense that that would be the thing that allows me to really step into my purpose.
Yes. And actually, just so everyone knows, the activation sequence, so those green spheres, right, that come across into the Venus sequence and Pearl, those four spheres are the four planets that create your incarnation cross in human design. So it's both the conscious and unconscious sun and the conscious and unconscious earth. So it's funny because when I first got into human design and people would ask about their incarnation cross, I would just naturally go to their gene keys and start having a conversation because it resonated more with them to say that, you have like these gene keys with these frequencies to explain that experience rather than saying, oh, you're the left angle cross of whatever. And I actually don't like, I still to this day don't know the crosses by heart, but
Yeah.
that's another sneaky trick. If you're like, I don't get my incarnation cross, look at your activation sequence and contemplate it. And that's going to give you the essence of your incarnation cross.
So cool. I mean, there's so many layers to this, which is what I love the most about it. So let's kind of backtrack. When you're looking at your gene keys and you're looking at the spheres, you want to look at the very top one.
Yes, for the I just gave an example today. Look at the brand, which is also known as the life's work, but the brand it's actually part of the Pearl sequence. So if you're on the Gene Keys website and you're playing with the toggles and you're like, I just want to look at my Pearl sequence, you'll see it's going to like go up into a triangle and you're going to have four spheres with one in the middle. That's your Pearl sequence. But your brand is always going to be the very top one. It's your brand and it's your life's work as well in the activation sequence.
So cool. So when somebody's looking at that and they're seeing kind of this like journey and they're seeing how this path is created, how can they then take that knowledge and put that into their brand in like a tangible, putting your messaging together, creating your content, having a strategic approach? Because I think a lot of people are like, we love digging into the nuances of this, but how do I embody it? How do I apply it? Outside of just like having the knowledge.
Yes. So actually let's talk about the messaging process that I like to take people through. And this process is literally it's not something I made up. It's something that's taught. It's literally, buyer psychology. It's been tried and tested like it works. And it's really looking at so it's like called pain agitation solution. So let's say you're writing a piece of content. You're writing it could be a carousel, a reel, an email, you're going through a podcast episode, whatever it is. You want to really paint the picture of getting people where they're at, like pointing out like what's not working for them. So let's say for me, like I'll use my 36 as an example. I'm promoting the Edge Mastermind. So one of the things that I speak to a lot of is like the turbulence of trying to build your business on your own and how it's such a struggle. You're writing content by yourself, you're questioning everything when things aren't going to plan in a launch, like you pull back, you're in your head a lot. It's really frustrating. You're in this emotional chaos of launching every quarter and things not going to plan, but you still have this fire in you. Like I'm really addressing where people are at because when you do that, people trust you. They're like, oh my God, like she gets me. Like, how does she know that's how I feel?
You in my brain.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. That's an example of turbulence. So I've taken the shadow of my gene key in the brand sphere and I'm painting that picture to my ideal client who's obviously a spiritual entrepreneur that has an online business. Then you want to move into why that's not working. It's like here you have this big vision, you're trying to paint this picture and get yourself out there and support your ideal clients, but you're literally so fatigued and emotionally drained after every launch because it's just a lot. It's a lot to handle on your own. You don't know the support that you need. You feel like you have to do it alone until you figure it out. What you need to do instead, so that's where you really address like, this is what's going on. Here's why it's not working. What you need to do instead, this is where I would position the Edge Mastermind, for example. This is the thing that I'm selling. That's what you want to do is you connect your gene keys to what it is that you're selling and address like the problem that your ideal client is experiencing. And I share how in the Edge Mastermind, this is really a space where women come in, they want the nuance of why a business strategy is working or not working for them. And they really want to be in a community of women who, when it gets hard, they're not quitting. They're holding themselves to high standards and they're ready to continue to push the line and craft their edge, which is why it's called the Edge Mastermind, so that they can stand out in their industry and be able to scale with ease. So then you go from the pain point, you paint the picture of what it is that they're doing, why it's not working, and then you share what it is they need to do instead. So obviously, my work is helping people with human design and gene keys and business strategy. And then I share why the Edge Mastermind is the right fit for them. And then I'll go into a call to action, which is, DM me the word if you feel ready to sign up for the space. So I go from this experience in the beginning. So if you look at it from a gene keys lens, so obviously we have the business strategy of like how I would write this post, right? It's like pain, agitated, here's a solution. Like buyer psychology right there. But then you look at the gene keys, and I went from this turbulent experience, realizing your humanity of what it means to grow a business and having that connection with others and having that compassion and understanding that you need nuance to be able to scale your business. And so I've leveraged my brand voice, taken those 3 frequencies of the 36 and wrote one post from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm obviously selling the mastermind as an example.
Yeah.
And so when I teach this to people, they're like, what the fuck?
Yep.
Like, pardon my French. I don't know if I can swear on here.
Oh, totally. Totally.
But like, yeah, it's easy to say, oh yeah, you need to like, get the pain point, agitate and position yourself as a solution. Like this is like bro marketing. Like people hate that. But the
Yeah.
way that I shared it was from my gene keys.
Mm-hmm.
And I know exactly, I'm like in the heads of my ideal clients. I know how they think. I know what they're struggling with. And so this is how I literally, with everything, launching, marketing, selling, just educating, I bring in human design and gene keys in this light because it brings a nuance. Like if you had a mastermind, for example, we could take the 28th gene key, create a post on that, and people would resonate with you because that's your essence. Like that's literally your life's work and your brand and how you bring people in. So I'm curious how that lands for you.
Yeah, no, I love that because it gives people so much more clarity. Like, yes, bro marketing works, right? We all know that like those approaches work or they have worked up until this point. And something that I've been speaking to a lot lately is like they worked before, but they're not working anymore because you can't force yourself to be in this box of what other people are perceiving, right? You have to really be in that alignment with yourself. And so using the gene keys and having your posts and your messaging structured in a way that is really resonant with you makes so much sense because it gives you that integrity. I think it gives you a different level of integrity in your business and in your messaging, where yes, you're following like psychology and what works, but it's coming from a place that has deeper purpose.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too, like, so with full transparency for the audience, like I have a freebie for you to sign up for. It's called Decode Your Genius, where I literally break down like gene keys and messaging the way that I just did right now. But you'll see inside of that masterclass, I talked about and I explained like, here's why this breakdown when you're writing content or when you're recording or you're teaching something works. It's like it's persuasive writing, right? But the thing is, when you bring in human design and gene keys, it adds a layer of emotional resonance. And the way that you can word it through that essence is going to empower people rather than have them feel like shit, like they have to sign up, otherwise they're going to fail. And so that's the thing, is that this takes it an extra mile and it brings in the piece where women, they want to connect with their ideal clients, but they're really afraid of turning into an asshole. and being manipulative, and they don't want to do that. And there's been so much drama that's come and gone inside the coaching industry in the last 6 years since I've been in it. And it's just, yeah, like people, they don't want to cause harm. So then they water down their messaging rather than realizing that you can just turn the volume up on the pieces that are authentic to you, which is exactly what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like getting loud, but having the megaphone be this pure channel of like you have the conviction in your messaging because it is resonant with you and who you are and your essence and your story and your experiences. And being able to, I think a lot of people meet resistance when it comes to pain points, right? Like we talk about pain points in messaging and marketing and branding, and it's like, ugh, those feel gross. But that's the thing that is with the Gene Keys giving you the ability to paint those pain points in a way that really allow people to resonate with you and feel that trueness rather than it just being another strategy that works.
Totally. Yeah, exactly.
I love that. So you mentioned your freebie. Can you let us know where to download that and how to get connected with you in your world? Because I think we could go in so many different directions and like again talk for hours, like you said, when it comes to human design and Gene Keys. But I really want this to be an introduction to the Gene Keys so that people can have your resources and be able to dive into this and really just open up the opportunity to be able to explore this more.
Yes. So I mentioned that freebie, Decode Your Genius, and I really did give like a little appetizer in our conversation today. But right now, this program is running until April 3rd. But this freebie is literally, it's like a 75-minute masterclass that I did. And I will teach you the entire breakdown of what we talked about in today's conversation. So imagine 30 minutes now expanded 3x so that you can get more depth. And by the time you watch this, you will have more clarity in terms of how to dive into your Gene Keys and weave this into your messaging. So this does lead into a program I'm running called Key Messengers, where it's like a month-long experience. By the time this episode drops, there'll be a few weeks left if you want to join live, but you're still going to be able to join passively and go through everything. The trainings are there. You're going to get the strategy with the human design and Gene Keys so that it feels really good, really digestible. So I'm really excited to offer that to people because I feel like I struggled with messaging for so long, and it's something people talk about all the fucking time on the internet. But what I really feel like is unless you can bring a level of nuance the way that we did in this conversation, it's all the same. Like what people are saying is all the same and it's still not landing. So it's like there's something missing there. And this is what I feel like is missing for people.
100%. Well, and I can speak to this in my own experience. The messaging is the thing that feels the most complicated for a lot of people when it comes to entrepreneurship. It's like, okay, I know I need to like know my ideal client. I need to speak to them, but like, what the fuck do I say? And to have this knowledge and to really be able to tap into something that is based on who you are is really a beautiful gift. And the way that you teach it, I just have to say, is so digestible because I think that with these spiritual conversations and these modalities and these things that we can be learning and exploring, it's really easy to be like, okay, that sounds cool, but like, what do I do with it? And you really break it down in a way that is actionable and tangible, which I super appreciate.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to share. Like, I honestly, I love this. And I know that you asked me earlier too, and I got carried away. But if you want to connect with me, find me on Instagram at Kehla G, my website, kehlag.com. I have my podcast. We're going to put Calandra's episode in there. We did couple of weeks ago by the time this drops, and it was a great conversation. So living in fierce alignment, lots of conversations on there with other entrepreneurs, business, human design, Gene Keys. So if you enjoyed this episode, would love to hear from you. I hope you join the masterclass. It's going to support you, and I'm just like so lit up by this that I think you're really going to have fun. So thank you so much for having me on, Calandra. Like I really love this conversation.
Yes, thank you so much. And everything will be in the show notes for all of the links. Make sure you go follow Kehla on Instagram. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you are listening so you never miss a beat. For episode show notes, visit calandramartin.com/podcast. Your iTunes reviews and your sharing of the show helps us reach more magnetic bosses just like you. Until next time.